Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. Here I'm starting off by protecting my spread spine with masking tape. You never see me do this for my earlier spreads, as those were the first and safe spreads. Moving forward, I'll be doing this for all my spreads, so you won't have any leakage that will spoil existing spreads. Here I have my old jotter book, my rough dream journal. You can see how I use it for my dream journals on the link above. These are all my sleepy handwriting, and I'll be using them as my background. Using my white glue, I'll prepare a quick decoupage glue with a little bit of water. Better protect my pages with some rough papers first. Just some flyers in my mailbox. Next, with my gesso, I'll be giving it a watery wash. I don't want to hide those gorgeous handwriting of mine, would I? This part of the paper got botched up, so I'll just scrape it off. No big deal. Next thing to do is to trim off all those excess paper. Just using my pen knife, ruler and cutting mat, running the knife lightly again and again. Now, using my rounded corner puncher, I'll trim off all the four corners. Here's using my yellow acrylic paint. Using my baby wipe, one of my favorite go-to techniques. I plan to do some light yellow here. Now a bit of blue and black. Mixing it with an ice cream stick. Using the same old baby wipe, I'll use it to apply the dark color to the rest of the spread. As a blending color, I'm using just the blue paint. Then I'm using the remaining yellow paint to give the blending section a patchy looking blend. I mixed another small batch of blue and black. Recently we bought a fridge and I saved a big portion of the styrofoam. Here's a small cutout of it. We'll be using it as an experimental stem. I'm always on the lookout for textures in this household. Doesn't yield much, but oh well. For the focals, I'd cut out these silhouettes earlier in the year and never had the chance to use them. Guess I'll recolor the yellow again for a more saturated color using a sponge. Now using my matte medium, I'll stick the pieces into the light. Now another street lamp in the dark. Yet another street lamp. I know the sizes won't be proper if you follow real perspective, but this is an art journal. Logic has no place in it. I don't want the balloons on the bicycle, so I'll cut them off. Using my circular pattern stencil, I'll attempt to apply my modeling paste on the bicycle floor. Blending the edges first. Then with my watercolors, I'll try to give those tiles some dirty grey look. Here I added some orange to give it a brownish shade. Unsatisfied with the results, I'm trying my risky black acrylic ink spray, then watering it down with some spritz of water. Pretty hard to avoid the color from collecting on the spine. Then with some orange watercolor, I'll be giving the yellow part some splatters. I missed out recording myself another tile paste onto this section with the same stencil here. Since it's in the shadows, I'll be giving these tiles even darker color using my ink spray again. Then I'll give it some yellow splatters. Fireflies, anyone? Now I'm giving these shadowed lamps some light. Just blotting watercolory yellows. Then a bit of orangey outlines. I'm also adding a bit more black watercolor to give the bicycle some shadows. Also here, I'm a bit unsatisfied with how invisible those dark tiles look. So I'm adding a bit of white watercolor. Again, I'm unsatisfied with the black tiles here too. I'm also adding a blob of yellow on each of the lamps here. A bit unnecessary if you ask me. Here is a rubber stamp of pattern doodles I carved myself, using my brown archival ink pad by Sukinoko for it. Better test the print first. The stamp is actually an inspiration by those texture doodle rubber stamps by Marilyn. Using my acrylic black ink again, I'm touching up all those black silhouettes that had gotten some paint over them. Here's some journaling quote stickers by Tim Holtz. I'm using these quotes. Always be on the lookout for the presence of wonder. I'll trim that into 2 parts. Using my matte medium gel again to secure them down. I'm also adding some short quotes here. Be fearless, be you bravely. Using my charcoal pencil, I'll be giving the quotes on the light some drop shadows, also adding a bit under the bicycle. Now I need to trim off those protruded black lamps. Seriously, I'm still unsatisfied with the bicycle shadows, so I resigned to using my soft charcoal stick. I think it looks a bit better now. So that's it. I'm tired. Quite happy with how it looked. Definitely did not turn out as how I had imagined it to be, mainly because of the perspective of the street, but heck. So thank you guys if you're still watching. Happy journaling, and bye.